campers, today is day 2 of golf camp. Yesterday we went over the basics. Today we're going to be discussing the fundamentals of the swing and what that entails. Today's power camp theme is surrender. The verse today is Galatians 2:20, and we give God 100% by surrendering our lives to Him. So now we're going to be discussing the swing and the fundamentals of the swing. I've got a 7-iron here with me, and we'll first talk a little bit again about that grip I mentioned yesterday, how we're going to have that neutral grip with the V's pointing to both shoulders of both hands, left to left, right to right. I use an overlapping grip. We mentioned those yesterday as well. And with the 7-iron, like I said, the ball is going to be more in the middle to middle front of the stance here. My feet are going to be about shoulder width apart, and when I stand over the ball here again, I'm going to have my hands a little bit forward, so the club's like this a little bit at its rest. Okay. Let's talk now a little bit about alignment and how we want to align our body to be able to hit the shot where we want to go. The first thing you're going to want to get aligned is your feet. And say my target out there is that big tree out there that you can see in the distance. What I'm going to do is try to align my feet with that tree. And one thing we can do to help that is put a club down on the ground and try to see where we're at. And if I look back from here, I'm a little bit to the left. So what I can do is move the club a little bit to where it needs to be, and then I can bring my feet back here and align accordingly. And then once I have my feet where they need to be, then my knees, my hips, and my shoulders, I want all in that same line. So everything is lined up towards my target. Before we take a swing though, we need to discuss safety and how to make sure we and everybody around us are safe. So before you ever take a swing, you need to make sure there's no one in the vicinity of you. When you take a backswing, this club can go pretty far back and pretty far forward. So you need to make sure behind you and in front of you are clear, because that can generate some serious speed and have some serious consequences if you hit somebody with your club. So you always want to make sure no one's around you when you're getting ready to hit. Also, if you're watching someone hit, you want to make sure you don't get anywhere near their swing, because if they're getting ready to stand over the ball and hit it, they might not be looking behind them or in front of them to see where somebody is. So always make sure, if you're watching, you're far enough away. Let's now talk about the backswing and what that entails. And once I have my grip and my stance, again about shoulder width apart, the ball's a little bit in front of the middle of my stance. My hands are going to be slightly in front of the club face of the ball, yep. And my first move back is not with my hands, but it's with my shoulders, my bigger muscles. So what I'm going to do is turn my shoulders, and that will then turn the hands back as well. You don't want to be flippy with the hands at all in this stage. You want to have those be pretty straight, pretty secure. Use your shoulders back to here, and then once you get to here, then you can cock the wrist and have that go back there. But the entire time you want to be turning your body. It's more of the big muscles, not the small muscles that swing a golf club. So when you get here, it's pretty straight, then cock it up, continue to turn here, and until you get about this point here in the golf swing. Let's look this angle as well, down the line. Again, like I mentioned before, you use your bigger muscles, your shoulders, to turn the club back here, and then once you get here, you can go ahead and cock the wrists, which is this motion here, and cock and continue to turn your shoulders till you're about to this point. You don't need to go any farther than this. Get back here. It can get harder to hit the ball, make good contact, okay? That's one thing you want to make sure of, is that you're more of a compact swing. You don't get too long and too loose, okay? So once you get to this point here, right in here, then you can start the downswing. And by starting the downswing, again, you don't pull down with your hands, you don't flip the wrist, you keep everything here kind of set and still, and you turn with your feet first, from the ground up. So you use the ground first. So when you're here, what you want to do is start down by turning your feet, your legs, your knees. Those will then cause your hips to move as well. Your hips will turn, and the club face will follow. The club will follow. So you don't need to pull it down and try to swing it like that. You don't hit with your hands and your arms. You hit more with your bigger muscles. You just turn your body and let the club follow through and hit the ball. Okay? And one thing else we didn't discuss either is the path back. You don't want to come too far inside this way or too far outside. When you take the club back, you want to be more basically kind of on line with your target. So my target's out there, the club needs to be kind of more on that same target as well before you lift it up. And on the downswing as well, you don't want to be out here, you don't want to come too far from in here. Okay, you want it to be more on the same kind of line it came back on. So it would be here and here. Remember how I mentioned early on that we want to have the club face or the hands a little bit in front of the ball? You want to make contact too with the club or the hands a little bit in front of the ball. You don't want to flip it here and be like this, you're going to lose your power. You want to hit the ball more like this here with your hands out in front of the ball. Let's talk a little bit about the weight and where the weight needs to be in the swing. Like I mentioned earlier, at setup, you need to have a little bit more weight on the back leg. And as you take the club back, more weight goes towards that back leg. So when you get to the top, I would say probably almost 80% or more of the weight is on your back leg. And when you come down, you're going to transfer that weight as you go through the swing. So you're going to have 80% here, 20 here. As you come down, 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 it's probably going to be more of 50-50 as you get into this position here. And then once you hit through the ball and out, almost all your weight is going to be on that front foot. And when you get through there, you want to extend up and out of the shot like this here. Let's talk about club face too, where the club face should be in the swing. As far as should it be open, should it be closed. When you come back here, the face should be a little bit shut. As far as shut, this is shut, that's open. You don't want the club face to be too open at that point. You want it to be a little bit more like this here in the back. So you don't really want to turn your wrists at all initially. You want to turn back with the big muscles, see how the club is a little bit closed. Go up with it here, and then when you come back down, it should be very similar to where it was when it went back. So it should be a little bit shut here, so when you come through, you have nice solid contact. Let's go ahead and hit a ball now and see. This is going to be a pitching wedge. So this has more loft, so it's going to go higher and not quite as far, okay? So I'm going to have the ball more in the middle of my stance. I'm going to try to get lined up to that big tree out there. I'm going to hold the club in more of a neutral grip. I'm going to have the hands a little bit forward in front of the ball. And let's see if I can hit this. Here's a face-on view of me hitting a golf ball. Again, a neutral grip, middle of my stance. I'm going to have my hands a little bit in front of the ball. Use my big muscles to turn my body. That concludes day 2 of the fundamentals of the swing. We went over setup, we went over the grip, we went over how you need to use your big muscles instead of your small muscles for the swing. Talked about where the ball should be in your stance. Talked about safety and make sure you're nowhere near someone when they're getting ready to hit, and you as a hitter, make sure no one's near you as well. Also day 2 is surrender and how we give 100% to God by surrendering all to Him.